In this race, we're up to 9. Bernie Sanders does what many people said he unofficially did over the weekend, recorded a "I'm in" video and announces, I'm going to be in for 2020 like I was in for 2016.
He had a radio interview this morning and he said, yep, I'm in. I'm running for president. So let's show you the list of all the Democrats. Oh, actually, I think we have that. Let's hear it.
You know, the thing about Bernie, now that he's declared he's going to run for president on the Democratic Party, he has been a national leader ever since he ran against Hillary Clinton in 2016 and did really well. But even though he is one of the national leaders in the Democratic Party, he refuses to join the Democratic Party. He described himself as a Democratic socialist. And when you look at his agenda, it's very clear, in addition to universal health care for all, there are many other things that made Bernie in 2016 stand out. Watch this.
Tuition free.
3 months paid family and medical leave.
A living wage, $15 an hour.
Healthcare is a right of all people, not a privilege.
Radical ideas are now mainstream ideas because of your support.
Medicare for all, the single-payer system, free college, his anti-Israel policy, that was basically his foreign policy. It won him New Hampshire. It almost took Iowa. It scared the heck out of Hillary Clinton. And then all of a sudden, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, working behind the scenes, cut his knees out, along with the superdelegates that were acquired before Bernie Sanders, who was actually in.
Well, if you vote for him, it's a very liberal agenda. You heard what he's for. You know what he's for. 2016 was a different race than 2020. It looks like the country, more and more people are supporting the socialist agenda, and that's what you get with him. When we asked the voters, that we did a poll last week, when the voters were asked, who do you want? Joe Biden was number 1 and Bernie Sanders was number 2. So far, Joe Biden hasn't gotten in the race, so it looks like Bernie Sanders would do really well.
Biden and Bernie sounds like will be in it. They are the two candidates on the Democratic side with the best name recognition. But, you know, 4 years later, things have really changed. In 2016, Bernie Sanders was a real contrast to Hillary Clinton. And now when you look at the things that he ran on 4 years ago, that's what everybody's running on, it seems like. When it comes to Medicare for all, you've got Harris, Gillibrand, Booker, Warren, Klobuchar. They're all for that. And then Amy Klobuchar, who yesterday said she's not for free college for everybody.
She said she wants the first 2 paid for, like a community college.
Well, she said that she did support Bernie on his $15 per hour minimum wage. So she is in unison with Bernie on that, just not the free college business.
But what about the timing? The timing of a socialist declaring for president one day after the president of the United States condemned socialism in Miami, and we look at Venezuela as a case in point of what could happen to America with all our natural resources, with all our history, like Venezuela, much richer than Venezuela, and all their oil resources. They have gone into the toilet as a country. They can't even stock their shelves with food that would be too expensive to buy anyway because of inflation. So she's like, look at me. If I'm a Democrat, if I'm running the Democratic committee, I'd be outraged right now. He wouldn't even join my party, yet he wants my nomination. I'd say hit the road, one in or out.
Well, they tried to create a law, a bylaw for the DNC. Apparently that's not true. So anyway, the news this morning, Bernie's in it to win it. We'll keep you posted.
What do you think Kamala Harris is saying right now?
Bring it on. Why not? The more the merrier. Big contrast there. Meanwhile, a new report reveals a possible motive in the alleged attack on Empire actor Jussie Smollett.
It comes as the brothers, once considered persons of interest, are breaking their silence.
Yep, from Nigeria, but born in Chicago. Matt Finn is live in Chicago, where there are no plans for the actor to meet with police again. But Matt, the police want to meet with the actor, right?
Certainly. This morning, the ball is in Jussie Smollett's court. Chicago police have formally requested a follow-up interview with Jussie Smollett as of 5 p.m. Eastern yesterday. Chicago police tell us they did not hear back from him. It was a holiday, so they were giving him the benefit of the doubt. Jussie Smollett's crisis manager says the actor is going to continue to cooperate with detectives. However, if Smollett does not, there is a scenario in the next 48 hours that police present this case to prosecutors or a grand jury. According to CBS, Osundario brothers told police police during interrogations they rehearsed the attack with Smollett, and that Smollett was upset that a death threat he allegedly sent to himself a week prior with a MAGA return address did not garner more attention, so he proceeded with this elaborate alleged attack. Smollett's attorney says anyone claiming Jussie played a role in his own attack is lying. Here's why Smollett said he feels he was allegedly assaulted.
Why do you think you were targeted?
I can just assume. I mean, I come really, really hard against 45. I come really, really hard against his administration.
This morning, Chicago police have not formally called Jussie Smollett the suspect in this case. However, they're no longer calling him necessarily the victim, referring to him as the person who reported this incident. Brian, Ainsley, Steve.
Wow. Where does he go from here? Thanks, Matt. Great work. You know, it looks like some people who immediately backed him are backing off. Kamala Harris won't comment on the Smollett probe. We have a soundbite coming up later. Nancy Pelosi.
She did comment, though, when it first happened.
Yeah, deletes a tweet condemning the attack. It's called an attack against humanity. She has since deleted that. And the question is, too, is what was he getting at? And what is he going to be charged? If you think about how the racial unrest in this country and the anti-Trump movement, they're not just anti-Trump. They have hatred towards him. Right. For him as a African-American to say it was anti-gay attack, it was a race attack, and it was because I don't like Trump, there could be a widespread riots because of that.
Well, Larry Elder had some comments on why the media ran with this and why some of those politicians, why they weighed in. Listen.
Look, the reason people believed it is because they wanted to believe it. They believe Donald Trump is a racist, and they believe racism remains a major problem in America. And you put those two together, voila, the story had legs. Question is, why did so many people believe it? And the answer is they despise Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump's supporters are racist. And Donald Trump's supporters are not only racist, they're also homophobic. And they're also people that engage in violence. So they wanted to believe it and ran with it, and now they're embarrassed.
There you go. There is a thread, reportedly in the initial story that Mr. Smollett gave Chicago police, he was talking about, they said something about MAGA, Make America Great Again. There's a headline in Salon that says this: scholar Matt Sears says someday MAGA hats will be shameful secrets like Klan robes. Matt Sears is a scholar. He's also a Washington Post columnist. When he was speaking to Salon, he said this: in a few generations from now, finding a MAGA hat in your grandparents' closet would be like seeing your grandfather's or grandmother's face in one of those lunch counter photos harassing the black people who are trying to fight Jim Crow and win their equal human rights. He also says in that article in Salon, to wear Donald Trump's MAGA hat and other uniforms is an endorsement of everything he stands for. People who support Donald Trump need to be held morally accountable. And then that ties in with what happened in Overland Park, Kansas a few days ago at a Vans store.
Yeah, this 14-year-old child walks into the Vans store. Vans are those shoes that, a lot of teenagers love. Yeah. Walks in there, and he's wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and he's offended by the employee who makes comments about it and uses profanity. The mother walks in, Mama Bear, and defends her son. Listen.
Nothing to you. And what did you say to my son? To my 14-year-old son? What did you say? My son walked into the store. That gentleman first told him, take off your hat. He said nothing to him. 14-year-old child. Then he said, F you to my son. My son said nothing to him, did nothing. That is a disrespectful punk right there. He did nothing.
Apparently, after the employee told the kid when he walked in, he said, take off your MAGA cap. Then he said, F you to the kid. And then the mother said, what did you say to my son, my 14-year-old? He said back to her, I'm sure he's heard it before. And then she said, where's the manager? And that's who you saw right there. And that's the guy who fired the kid who said F you to the 14-year-old. Unbelievable. Vans, by the way, says that the corporate office said the actions and comments from this employee is in contrast with our values and beliefs.
All right, let us know what you think about that. Friends at foxnews.com. Let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines.
That's right. Good morning. And let's start with this. California leading a multi-state lawsuit against President Trump's emergency declaration. 16 Democratic attorneys general taking the legal battle to the liberal Ninth Circuit Court, claiming the action is unconstitutional. This after the president declared a national emergency, allowing him to move about $6 billion in military funds to build a southern border wall. The states say moving money will hurt their economies. First responders saved 16 people stranded on an amusement park ride overnight. Passengers, including children and a baby, left hanging in gondolas over water in San Diego. It took hours to save them one by one, lowering them into rescue boats using harnesses. The SeaWorld ride came to a sudden stop after a strong gust of wind tripped a circuit breaker. The ride will be inspected before it's reopened. Today, a judge will rule on a request to dismiss a lawsuit against the Obama Presidential Center. A group is suing to prevent the $500 million museum and library from being built in a public park in Chicago. They argue that the city is illegally giving parkland to the Obama Foundation. The city of Chicago wants the lawsuit tossed. Iconic fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld has died. According to French media, the creative director of Chanel passed away in Paris after being sick for several weeks. He missed a Chanel fashion show for the first time last month. His exact cause of death is unknown. Karl Lagerfeld was 85 years old.
Oh, icon in the industry.
Yep.
85
That's so
years.
sad.
All right. Thank you, Jillian.
Everything we love about the clothes we can't afford.
I know.
Chanel, he created. He's behind that.
Yep.
It's amazing.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, back to some breaking news. Bernie Sanders is running for president again, releasing this video moments ago.
Our campaign is about transforming our country and creating a government based on the principles of economic, social, racial, and environmental justice.
Well, does he have a chance this time around? We're going to ask Harry Reid's former communications director, coming up next.
And heads up, the close call for one hockey announcer caught on camera.
Let's see that again.
Dangerous president in modern American history. It is not only about winning the Democratic nomination and the general election. Our campaign is about transforming our country.
There you go. The tape that was evidently done over the weekend is now out. A Fox News alert. Moments ago, Bernie Sanders officially announced his second run for president of the United States. He's 76 years old. But will it work for him and he's 77. Will it work for him this time around now that he's 77 and more experienced? Let's ask Democratic strategist John Summers. He served as communications director for former House Majority Leader Harry Reid. The senator, of course, recovering. He had cancer, and he's trying to work his way back. They got it early, you mentioned. So Bernie Sanders in. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, there's been plenty of talk about it. And, it takes a while to build up the team that you need in order to announce a presidential campaign and really start running. So, no, I'm not really surprised. But finally, you guys got the socialists that Republicans have been waiting for, right? I mean,
the day after the president condemns it in Miami.
Absolutely. But this is an important time because he's actually going to help demonstrate the difference between socialism and what Democrats are standing for. And I think that that's been something that the Republican strategists have really tried to conflate. They've tried to label Democrats as socialists, and now Bernie Sanders coming out with his campaign will clearly be able to show a difference.
And John, I think you're right. Outside Howard Schultz and Mike Bloomberg, who are Democrats who are thinking about getting in, they quickly said, almost every candidate, I'm for free college. I am for the Green Deal. I am for getting rid of private insurance in Kamala Harris's case. So it was really hard to push back when they come out and said that. But in Bernie Sanders, you have Medicare for all, you have free college, and you have a single payer. He also is somebody that is not a Democrat. He wants to use the apparatus of the Democratic Party, but he won't go into the party. Why does Democrats put up with that?
Well, I mean, as you hear so often, we are a big tent. But personally, I'm bothered by it. I'm bothered by the fact that over the last 2 years, we had the State of the Union address, we had the Democratic response to the State of the Union address, and then we had Bernie Sanders' response to the State of the Union address. So if he wants to run as a separate, socialist, then great, go ahead and do that. But I do have issues with the fact that, he, to your point, that he's trying to use the Democratic Party apparatus in order to become president.
Senator Elizabeth Warren came out yesterday and did expand on some programs. Now we have big ideas. She says she wants a wealth tax in order to pay for free preschool. your reaction as that being a viable program that will resonate with the majority of the American people?
I think it's an important conversation that we're having. I don't know that that's the ultimate solution that's going to come out of it. But the reality is you've got a lot of working families out there who, need to have jobs to pay the bills, but childcare takes out such a big chunk of their income that it really does make it difficult. And you have a lot of families who have to decide, do I work or do I just stay home and take care of my child? So I think we do need to do something to address the lack of affordable childcare in America. Whether that's a solution, I don't know. I think it is, it's easy to look at these things, whether it's Green New Deal or Warren's child care proposal. It's easy to look at these things in isolation. What the primary is going to do for us is allow us to see all of these candidates and their entire platforms in total, so we get a much clearer picture of who we're going to be voting for.
And John, it'll be in an intramural setting, so let them bring it out of each other, and then we'll go into the big picture.
Exactly.
Great to see you, John Summers.
You too.
All right, straight ahead. We've been telling you about the free speech is under attack on campuses nationwide. Now, our group of students is fighting for their right to speak out. One of those students will join us next. 20. That's how many years tourists at the Grand Canyon may have been exposed to radiation. A park official claims paint buckets in a museum building contained uranium ore. Although the buckets were removed, the officials say the Parks Department never let the public know. I'm going to walk over here and read. Next, 0. That's how many candidates the Obamas are planning to endorse for the Democratic nomination for president. That, according to the New York Times, which is a daily newspaper, citing sources and interviews from former advisors. And finally, I've got to find number 3. Here we go. 3 feet. That's the length of El Chapo, the alligator. Police finding the beast guarding a stash of drugs, that's big but blurry, during a drug raid in Pennsylvania. The reptile, nicknamed after the notorious drug lord El Chapo, who was convicted last week of doing everything wrong. Stephen Ainsley?
In your defense, the numbers on the floor are teeny tiny.
Very small.
Very small. But we seamlessly do it.
Thank you, Brian. Meanwhile, in other news, the fight for free speech on college campuses is now getting the attention of Iowa lawmakers. Conservative students there are pushing a new bill to protect their First Amendment rights in and out of the classroom on campus.
This comes after the federal court ruled in favor of a Christian student group that said the University of Iowa discriminated against that group because their leaders must abide by a statement of faith. And joining us now to discuss this is Jordan Landau, campusreform.org correspondent and student at the University of Iowa. So what's the latest? Because I know you're part of the group that went to lawmakers and said, we need a bill that allows for free speech on campus. What happened there?
Yeah, so I'm not a lawyer, but the University of Iowa barring business leaders in Christ for following the teachings of their faith is a clear violation of our First Amendment rights. And as a Jewish student, I applaud the business leaders in Christ for standing up for what they believe in. The Leadership Institute's campus reform has been reporting for years on examples of colleges and universities trying to suspend our constitutional rights on campus.
Do you feel like they're picking on you for unevenly, or is this discretion across the board?
So I feel like that's definitely discretion across the board. Every student was affected by what happened with business leaders in Christ. Before the court ruling in favor of that student org, the university tried to force all student groups to accept a non-discriminatory clause, and over 30 student orgs decided not to and were temporarily suspended because of that, including one that I'm involved in, Young Americans for Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So why did the school have a problem with business leaders in Christ? Were they saying because you have to be or does the organization say you have to be a Christian, you have to believe in Christ to be a part of it? I can't imagine anyone will want to be a part of it if they don't have the same beliefs, but what was the argument there? What was the problem?
Yeah, so the problem was that a student just wanted to be on leadership but didn't relate to some of their beliefs. So the organization was like, I'm sorry, you can't be on leadership. And that's what started the whole thing.
There at the University of Iowa, Jordan, have you personally noticed that your First Amendment rights have been infringed?
It's very concerning that a taxpayer-funded institution like the University of Iowa would take such a step. I feel like college students are legal adults and our constitutional rights are not suspended when we get onto campus. And I feel like higher education requires freedom of speech, and tolerance and diversity means allowing for all opinions and beliefs, even those we don't agree with.
Yeah. We did reach out to the University of Iowa for a statement. They have not responded.
Jordan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
You're welcome.
Let's see what happens. Meanwhile, a new Democratic governor just canceled plans to build an immigration detention center in their state. One lawmaker there says it's not just a swipe at President Trump, it's a swipe at her entire state.
Special interests that dominate our economic and political life. We are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We should not have a grotesque level of wealth inequality.
That's Bernie Sanders officially announcing his second run for the White House. The independent socialist joining a crowded Democratic field on the heels of President Trump's speech in Miami last night, warning about the dangers of socialism.
So what do the voters in that neck of the woods think? Let's talk to Todd Pyro. He's talking to them over breakfast with friends at a very cozy looking place called Cozy Corner there in Miami Springs, Florida. Todd?
Hey guys, good morning. Beautifully named, and how appropriate. Like you said, President Trump was just down the street less than 24 hours ago talking about the ills of socialism. And this morning, Democratic socialist Bernie Sanders announces he is going to be running for the White House in 2020. So we have some amazing reaction to that. Renan, your dad was a political prisoner in Cuba. That's right. You call socialism destructive. What's your reaction to Bernie Sanders entering the 2020 race?
That's right. Socialism is destructive, and I think that Bernie's vision for America is destructive as well. I don't think ultimately the Democrats are going to want him as their candidate. He almost got to be the front runner with Hillary, but it didn't work out, and I think they want someone younger. I don't think he's going to be a big factor.
All right, Renan, thank you. Frank, naval officer, thank you for your service, sir. The son of immigrants, you say socialism does not work. Your reaction to Bernie?
It's a failed experiment. It never works. You know, in Cuba and Venezuela, the examples are resounding. The thing about Bernie is that he's upfront about his socialism. It's not going to be any surprises. So I hope the voting public educates themselves on the failed experiments and doesn't allow it to come to fruition.
In an area like we are here right now, so many Cuban Americans, so many Venezuelan Americans, what do you think the reaction to Bernie's announcement is going to be?
Oh my God, it's almost laughable. Yeah, great. I mean, we love our president. We love what he's doing, and adding candidates like Bernie to the Democratic ticket will only fortify his position. And it worries me. After 2020, when he's done with 4 more years, then what's going to happen? That's where my concern is.
Frank, thank you. Peter spent 30 years in law enforcement, has a very specific response to the Bernie Sanders announcement. What is it?
Yes, Bernie Sanders is a socialist, does not support law enforcement. He does not want to give us the tools we need, surplus military equipment and the weapons we need. And
he's getting a call.
In Orlando at the Pulse Bar, where 49 people were killed, the police used a military surplus vehicle. They knocked down the wall, and they were able to go in and shoot the guy who had killed 49 people.
And obviously this is going to be one of the points that's discussed in the many debates that you can expect over the course of the next couple months. Zachary, you say that for young people who like socialism, they need a field trip to either Cuba or Venezuela. What is your reaction to Bernie Sanders' announcement?
My reaction would be that two of my granddaughters have gone on field trips in their younger years in school, and both of them have been very educational. I think taking kids to places like Venezuela and Cuba would be an eye-opening experience to see what socialism is all about firsthand. I think Bernie running as the Democrat president candidate is the best thing in the world for the Democrats and the Republicans.
All right, why do you say that?
Because it's bad for the Democrats and great for the Republicans.
All right, Zachary, thank you. And finally, Felix. Felix had the line of the day. He calls Bernie Sanders a unicorn. Why?
Because he promises all these great things and rainbows and wonderful things, and he can't deliver on them. History has shown that socialism doesn't work in any country. They promise the poor and downtrodden all these wonderful things that never gets to happen. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to produce, but he's going to get the votes maybe, which is great for us because I think it's going to help Trump win the presidency in 2020.
Felix, thank you for your time. Thank you, all of you. Give yourselves a round of applause. That was great stuff. Back to New York City.
Look at that.
Todd
you,
Potter
Todd.
live at the Cozy Corner, getting reaction to Bernie Sanders, who is now running for president.
He is in
again.
the race officially as of this morning. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines.
That's right. Good morning to you. Good morning to you at home. Well, this story is a big talker. An American woman who moved to Syria to become an ISIS bride is pleading to come home. Hoda Muthanis' family tells the New York Post she's ready to pay her debt to society. She's now speaking out from a refugee camp.
When I realized that I made a big mistake, and I know I ruined my future and my son's future, and I'm deeply, deeply regretting.
Muthanis.
I got really pissed. Don't come into what I call home and steal from my home.
Police say someone swiping the holy book from the Colorado VFW on Valentine's Day. It isn't worth much money, so it's unclear why the thief took the book, but I'm sure it has a lot of sentimental value. A sportscaster is nearly smacked right in the face with a hockey puck on live TV. Watch this.
Tonight, we really go inside the glass, presented by Toyota. My goodness, Pierre.
Well, that was like an inch away. You can see the puck fly right in front of Pierre Maguire's face right before it hits the camera. The close call happening at a Blue Jackets game in Columbus, Ohio. He is one lucky dude.
He came about 3 inches from a really
losing
bad
an eye.
headache.
Yeah.
Holy
Those
cow.
things hurt.
That was flying.
All
right.
You want to talk about flying? Janice Dean was flying outside. She wants to give us the weather real quick.
I will real quick because it's cold outside, but I've got folks from the south. Where are you from?
North Carolina.
St. Augustine, Florida.
Northern Virginia.
Freeport, New York. All right, New York. And where are you from, sir?
East Meadow, New York, Long Island.
Long Island. Do you
Yep.
know Brian Kilmeade?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
Do you know him well?
I went to one of his
Book signings?
money working.
Holy moly. You got to see this truck in back of me. He's trying to parallel park. He's going over some snowbanks. Let's go through the weather real quick. Hold on. Here it is. You need some help, sir? Stand by. Okay, here we go. What are the current wind chills in New York? It's 11 right now. 13 in Chicago. Oh my gosh. Past 24 hours, the vehicle is still trying to park. It's really quite incredible. We are dealing with the potential for a winter storm that's going to go up to the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast and bring the potential for quite a bit of snow, my friends, in the D.C. area. I am warning you now, you could get 4 to 6 inches in and around the D.C. area up towards Philly, and then New York. It'll kind of turn into a slushy mess on Wednesday and Thursday.